a great pleasure to introduce him, known him for many, many years. It's Rene Meulensteen.
Would you put a lot of the blame on the Glazers?
I mean, at the end of the day, if you are owners, you have to take ownership. With expectations comes pressure. That needs to be managed. And Sir Alex Ferguson was the best one to manage that.
Graham Potter was on Monday Night Football and he hinted that Manchester United had spoken to him in the summer.
You don't let something like that out publicly.
No.
You go and get on your knees and pray every night that Man United are going to ring you.
Zirkzee or Fernandes, when the ball went back to the goalkeeper, he just starts running. You can't do that because they'll pick you off. If Sir Alex Ferguson would have not left, I guarantee you, 100% we would have been there and thereabouts to win the league again.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of No Tippy Tappy Football. Hey Sam!
Hello Nat, how are you?
I'm good,
Great to see you again as always.
You too, you had a good week?
Yes, I've had a very good week and of course, like everything else, looking forward to the European games and the Premier League games and occasionally have a look down into the Championship now and a few lads who are working in League 1 and 2 and see how they're going on, but I've seen a lot of certainly the Championship games on.
Yeah.
So it's
Loads on
good
TV.
to watch. It's good to watch the difference between that and the old tippy tappy Premier League that we've got at the moment, like you mean. So I'll be interested in my guest to hear about that tippy tappy football that I call and what his take on it is, because the culture is quite like tippy tappy where he comes from, like you mean, which is hey, listen, there's no problem with it if it works. But I think a lot of the word it's gone overboard in my opinion. But we'll find out what he says because it's a great pleasure to introduce him. Known him for many, many years, and it's Rene Meulensteen. And Rene, it's been fantastic for you to come along. Who's just finished in Australia with the national team, and he's here with us today for listening to his wisdom. So I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you. Really looking forward to it today. Before we get into it all, and it is going to probably be a very Man United heavy focused show today. Before we get into it, just a little reminder as well, if you're not subscribed to us on YouTube or as a podcast, please do subscribe to us. And don't forget as well, we're going to keep asking you, please vote for us in the Football Content Awards where we are up for Best Podcast in the Organisation category. We're up against the real big boys. So we really do need your vote. We'd love it.
Don't forget, vote for No Tippy Tappy Football.
See, Sam said it in a slightly scary way, so now you have
to.
For you. He'll come for you. So now that's out of the way. Welcome, of course, to most of our viewers and listeners. You'll either be known as the assistant, you were without Sir Alex Ferguson at Man United for many, many years, of course, as Fulham manager as well. But as Sam mentioned, most recently you were in Australia with the national team. You've just left though. How's life?
Yeah, good. Although it's a shame, really, that it had to end this way because obviously I always find when you go in a job, you want to finish it. And I had the pleasure of qualifying with Australia for the World Cup in Qatar, which was almost, my circle coming to full circle because that's where I started my career back in 1993. So I've seen a lot of developments happening there. But just to go and qualify with Australia for the World Cup in the fashion that we did with the penalty shootout against Peru, was magnificent, and I thought we gave a really good account of themselves, and got knocked out by the later winners Argentina, Messi and co-host, and 2-1. But we give them a run for the money, and we wanted to do the same thing in the lead up to the American, to the USA World Cup in 2026. But we had not a start that we expected against Bahrain and Indonesia, and that made Graham Arnold, who was the head coach, decide to step aside and put somebody else in place.
So what's the future hold for you then? What are you fancying?
Well,
he's back in Manchester anyway.
He's
back where he obviously he must love the most, So even with the weather.
Yes,
definitely. It's I have to say I did really enjoy the international side of football. I've been in club football for all my life, and this was a complete different kind of job that you do because you got by far lesser contact time with the players, and people do not really realise the challenges that we face with Australian players, especially if played abroad, because they play the games on Saturday, Sunday, they jump on a plane, they travel for give and take nearly 24 hours. We've got one and a half session, and then they have to play. You know what I mean? And obviously it doesn't help when the Australian League only starts at the back end of October, so we can't select any players from Australia. So there's a lot of distance, a lot of travelling going on, and this and that and the other. But to be working then, towards something like a big tournament, an Asia Cup or a World Cup, was fascinating, and I really loved it. But you asked me what I'm going to do next. I don't know. I want to stay in football. I'm still, young and healthy, and I want to crack on.
Your daughter, Peen's doing so well. I know Peen from back in the day, BBC Radio Manchester Times, and she's absolutely smashing the world of commentary and media at the minute. Is she maybe giving you some pointers? Do you fancy moving into a bit more media?
Well, that's why I'm here. First of all, to help the Tippy Tappy podcast, to win the trophy. But
thank you.
There we go.
That's the spirit we like.
But I don't. No, I don't mind. I don't mind these things, because I think the best thing in football is playing it. The second best thing is coaching or managing it, and the third best thing is talking about it.
Yes.
So whatever comes my way, I'm more than happy to.
What else is there to talk about sometimes?
I agree.
Other than whether it be here, whether it be in the pub, wherever we're going, whatever we're doing, it's always a very, very, very good subject to be talking about.
If you can make it some sort of job, then we are very, very blessed, as we know that we are. Okay, let's talk football. Let's just get right into it. Let's talk football. Obviously, there was a big game at the weekend. Manchester United played Spurs. Before we get into the Manchester United side of it, I'd like to talk about the Spurs side of it as well, because as I say, it's going to be very heavy Man United. What did you first of all make of the game as a whole, Sam?
Well, obviously, as always, you will look forward to it, like the game, just to live up to the expectation you expected of that, like you mean. And unfortunately, it didn't happen because Man United were never in it, or when they were in it, they weren't in it for long enough, considering they were playing at home, and allowed Tottenham to dominate the game far too long and for far too longer periods, like you mean. And I think that was a difficult ask for Ten Hag on why are the players reacting like this? So you've got this at the end of the game, you've got all this they're not trying stuff again. I mean, a player never goes out and plays for Man United and doesn't try, or any club in the Premier League, or any club in professional football. I would never say. What I would say is they're misdirected, or they're playing with fear. And they're playing with so much fear, they look like they're not doing what they can do better and what they've shown to do better in the past. But I think that the combination of Tottenham and where they are, and the combination of Man United where they are still, is still not functioning well enough to decide what do they do and what they don't do well. And I don't think they closed down as an high-intensity team well. So that's a problem, because particularly playing at Old Trafford, if you decide to drop off and play counter-attacking football, that's not what the fans want to see. But if that's the manager has to decide if that's the best capabilities of the team, he has to be brave enough to install it. And if that brings him wins and results, then the fans are going to be okay with that for a certain amount of time before you have to change it again and try and become more attacking and more adventurous. But the combination between the front, the midfield and the back is not unified. They don't all work together attacking. They don't all work together defending. And hence you get this disjointed performance that brings a lot of criticism to you. And of course, then you've got this referee VAR rubbish again, where you've got a player sent off that shouldn't be sent off. And the reason why he shouldn't be sent off is the lad on VAR should have told the referee, you can't send him off because it's not a dangerous, career-threatening tackle. It's not reckless and dangerous. It's just a tap with the ankle, mistimed, slipped. And he's seen all this on his VAR and still goes with the referee. And now, so Man United are getting down to 10 men. Things are not going well. So it's a huge, an extra. I mean, he's already got enough problems. Ten Hag at the moment. Now, the last thing he wants is, yes, if he deserves to get sent off, and yes, fine. But when he doesn't deserve to get sent off at that particular time, it throws you under enormous pressure, and everybody's talking about how long is he going to last, when's he going to get changed. Now, it's not all, that's just a small incident the referee could have helped Man United with. The bigger problem is they still aren't going or in the right direction just yet. And whether they will or won't after all the changes they've made is a big question mark.
On that one, Sam, were you at the game or did you watch it
on TV? No, I just watch it live.
I did the same thing, but on that Fernandes thing was, and we've been in the game, you know, long enough to understand that, because sometimes you get games of two halves. And I was watching it with a mate of mine, and I said to him, he says, the one problem that Tottenham has, they haven't killed the game off. And I can't see Man United coming out of the second half be as poor as they were in the first half. And I think that Fernandes red card threw a spanner in the works. That stopped it, because I said, you watch, if United will be different in the second half. But because of that red card, Tottenham capitalised straight away after half-time, 2-0, that was game over.
That was it, yeah.
Before we get your sort of take on United, what do you make of Ange Postecoglou? What do you make of Spurs and their style?
It was a really interesting game for Ange Postecoglou in Tottenham as well, because if it would have been the other way around, and I think if United would have beaten Tottenham convincingly 3-0, then the pressure would have been back in London. But Ange is very clear. What I know of Ange, obviously, myself and Graham Arnold, we basically sort of took over from Ange when he qualified Australia for the World Cup in 2018. He's had, after that, different clubs in Japan, obviously Celtic and now Spurs. One season last year, he's very clear in his playing style. Very clear to the players, you know, he wants to play in the front foot, he wants to dominate possession, he wants to play with a very, very high line, as we all know, and he wants to play with it with a certain level of risk. And the key to that is to making sure that, you know, in possession, you're not sloppy. You have to making sure that you move the ball well. You don't have sloppy turnovers, because that can hurt them obviously in the back. But so far so good, and it's admirable, because it always makes up for great viewing.
Good entertainment. Yeah. I think they play like that because they got one of the best centre halves in the Premier League.
Dutch. Micky Van De Ven.
Oh.
How have other people missed him? You know his trajectory. He was at Volendam. At Volendam, which was a second division team in Holland. Volendam. And Wolfsburg picked him up.
Okay.
And everybody knew. People were saying, well, how is he getting? How can he go to Wolfsburg? But he is lightning quick. Great physique.
What about the run for the goal?
Oh, you see, he done it before.
Is that the best run you've ever seen of a centre half? That's the best run a centre half has ever made in his entire life. All accumulating a goal. He just blitzed every Man United player. He's running with the ball and he couldn't even catch up with him. I'm not just talking about that, how brilliant it was. I'm talking about his defending. You can, if you've got players who are that quick, you can defend that. You can do that high line, that really high line that keeps the team compact when they lose the ball and they win it back. So it was a great signing. He's the best signing Tottenham have made for years and years.
I love your reaction there.
He doesn't seem to be getting the sort of credit for it that he should be getting. But he is fantastic. I like him a lot.
I'm like that with any Scotland player that does well now and again. I'm like, Scottish. He's Scottish. Like to just make sure people know that. Okay, so let's do a big deep dive on Manchester United. So you were there for 6 years under Sir Alex Ferguson.
Well, I was there for 6 years as the first team coach. In total, I was there for more than 12 years. So I initially came in as a skills development coach to work with the youngest kids to put a technical program in place. Because at that particular time, Sam would still know we could only scout within parameters an hour and a half. So we had all different development centres set around Manchester area where kids could come in, and making sure that the parents didn't have to travel too far, so 15, 20 minutes max. And I had to sort of, guide all those coaches and scouts by making sure they were looking at the same thing and were doing the right thing. And it was all skill development. And that was what was lacking in the United Academy. And I put 4 advanced centres in there, so where the better kids from the development centres could feed in. And I would then train those kids with all the coaches, etc. So it was an ongoing thing. And the credit
Big
was...
job. Yeah, big job, that one. Yeah.
It was great, but also it was that I had, first of all, have the many of the coaches all to buy into it, because there's always ifs and buts. But you have to, one thing, see a distinctive difference between grassroots football, right, and what we want to see at a senior level. And what we see at senior level, the players of, the past and present, there's a lot of things, a lot of changes. But something in football never changed, because if you go back all the time to Puskas, Di Stefano, Bobby Charlton, Eusebio, Cruyff, Beckenbauer, all the way up to Messi, Ronaldo, Mbappe, they have one particular quality, and it's a combination of intelligence, pace, but the individual skill to dominate the opponents. That's what they all had. Now, if we can instill that with young kids, you probably get a better product when they reach that age to go to the scene. And that was where Sir Alex Ferguson believed in strongly, because he came to watch numerous of times to see what we were doing, how the progress was going. And when I got that support from him, it made it so much easier.
Yeah.
And is that how that then led on to coaching?
Yes, because eventually I convinced Sir Alex that I said that, yes, we have to do this right with the grassroots football, but I strongly believe you can even make any first team player better. Some 0.5%, some 1%, some 2%.
Yep.
If you specifically work with him in their positions. And that is what I started to do, because I started to work with Diego Forlan, who was a player that was at Man United sometimes maybe at the wrong time at the wrong place, because he had so many good players in front of him. But Diego had so many good attributes. 2 feet, left and right, and quick. But he had no trick. He had no trick. He would always run a little bit similar to Timo Werner at Tottenham.
Yeah.
One-dimensional,
one
one-directional.
dimension, no change of pace.
Exactly. And I needed to change
Yeah.
him and add that to his game. And when he saw that happening, other players started to come in. So I started to do work with Ruud van Nistelrooy. I started to do work with Ryan Giggs. I worked with Giggsy, who's a very technical player. But I said to Ryan, I said, you're not 17 anymore. You haven't got that explosive burst. So you need to make the difference within your unpredictability in terms of changing angles all the time. So that sort of stuff I started to work with. And then I got given the reserve team job, because Ricky Sorbaja left.
Came for me.
Yeah, it came for you.
Came for me, yeah.
You stole him.
I did steal him.
And basically,
Sir Alex wasn't very happy at the time.
But thanks, Sam. You gave me the reserve team job. And I wrote a letter and I slipped it under the manager's door. Because he was always at the club very early, so I had to be there at like 5:30 in the morning just to slip it under the door. And basically, the letter wrote, it says, "Boss, I know that Ricky has left. You're looking for a new, new reserve team coach. But why are you not looking in house? Because the solution is here." And I think, with the players that I've got, and we had at that time Giuseppe Rossi, Gerard Piqué, Johnny Evans, all in that reserve team. Yeah. And that gave me the opportunity to instill all that technical skill program in a team setting. So now I could glue the two things together. So I showed him. I says, now I can show you how a team should operate and incorporate all those skills. Because it's a constant game of moving the ball quick, 90% of the time. But it's that 10% that the players need to use that skill at the right time that really can cause problems for the opposition.
Did you hear that then? Moving the ball quick.
Moving the ball
and
quick.
more importantly, moving the ball forward.
Okay, so you've got pedigree. You've got Manchester United pedigree. You were there. You've seen it. You were there in the glory days as well. I mean, in the early 2000s, Manchester United were still very much winning.
I loved every minute of it.
Everything, yes. And then
what
you
was
were
there
there.
not to love?
Yeah.
Of course.
It wasn't for you, but...
Well, yes, it was a torrid time for me.
You were noisy neighbours then.
Very much. So I ask, without no Manchester City head on whatsoever, a very, very wanting to know your opinion, and I imagine a lot of Manchester United fans would like to know your opinion too. It's a very big question, but what's gone wrong?
We haven't got enough time on the podcast, I don't think. But go on.
See, I think in a nutshell is this, and when you anticipate change, you need to react in advance to making sure that, okay, how are we going to manage that? And I can remember having a conversation with David Gill in 2011 when we were pre-season. We were in Malaysia, we're having a coffee and sit together. And I said to David, your biggest challenge is to manage Man United beyond the departure of Sir Alex Ferguson. And there's only 2 ways to do it. It's whether you make him part of that transition and you try to find a solution within, so you keep the DNA, you keep the stability, you keep the continuity, or you go from somebody outside. And there's not many candidates there that can, handle the size of the club and Man United and everything goes with it, plus play in an attractive way of football and win things. That's the hardest combination. You know what I mean? But obviously we all know that David, left even before Sir Alex, and then Sir Alex, said he was going, and then obviously...
That was a big mistake, wasn't it? Both going together.
A massive mistake.
Both going together.
And like I said, the way that they have then, sort of managed it, is basically because the most important thing of any football club, and that Sam, you'll be different ones, is 2 things: culture and identity. Right, on and off the pitch. The Manchester United identity off the pitch is the brand. Yeah, that's there, that's brilliant, and it will still be there. But it was very much fueled by the success that Sir Alex Ferguson and all the players and everybody created. You know what I mean? Because everybody wants to associate themselves with success. Now that success is taken away over the last 10 plus years. And a lot of changes have happened. Managers coming in, managers going, players coming in, comers going. And they're never able to find, the same sort of success formula, to play that attractive way, attack in an attractive way, and win things and compete for, for the Premier League. So it is honestly, and that's hard to say, but it's been down to mismanagement and a lot of factors, I think.
Would you put a lot of the blame on the Glazers? Because I know a large percentage of Manchester United fans really do believe it's the Glazers' fault.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you are owners, you have to take ownership. And the most important thing is that the guidance from the ownership, they have to put the right people in place. And it's then managing down to everything, from the whole club side, but also the technical side, because initially there was always this discussion, why does Manchester United not have a technical director? Why do they not have a director of football? Because it was always...
Now they've got all of them, haven't they?
Yeah, now they've got all of them. They've got 4 or 5 of them.
Whether that's too many is only time will tell, like you mean. So, when you think and you look back at the responsibility you took on as manager that you don't have anymore, you're no longer a manager now, you're just an head coach.
Yeah.
So you're not in charge of your own destiny as much. But when you look at how many conflict opinions there might be now.
Too many voices. I think, Sam, you wanted to speak to somebody that this is want to speak to because I know he's going to get things done.
Okay.
And then I can go off and get that done. That's more important to me. He can get that, and that's what he's employed to do. He wants this player. He doesn't want that player. If you got that conflict with that, like Wilcox, Dan Ashworth, you got all these people who have their own ideas, what you should get, what you shouldn't get. So I hope it works, because we need Man United to be Man United again, don't we? Like you mean, because it's what the Premier League's all about. But we can only wait and see whether this new regime behind the scenes that have been brought in works, because certainly the old regime did need a bit of a clear out. I think they've done that, and they've moved very quickly.
I can hear a couple of Man United fans in my head now that I'm friends with that would still want to remind people that Manchester United still won 2 FA Cups and 2 League Cups and a Europa League in the last sort of 5-6 years, but it's nowhere near to the expectation levels of Manchester United Football Club from where they've come. I get flabbergasted still as somebody that grew up with Manchester United as the greatest club in the the most feared club in the world, to how far they've fallen. And again, they're still a Premier League club, they've not got relegated. But when you look at, the infrastructure, when you look at the stadium, how have they let Old Trafford get to this point? And does it all just come back to what you were saying of it being just mismanagement at the top?
Yeah, because you have to look at all aspects, the logistics, the whole thing. And like I said, it all comes down to the ownership and making sure that every department of the club is the best that it can be. Now, it hasn't been. And I think why is it slip? I think if I look back to Ferguson, it was always in this, every club has got his ambitions in terms of what they want to achieve. For us, Man United was very simple. Win the Premier League, get as far as we can in Champions League and hopefully win that. FA Cup, League Cup, whatever Charity Shield in that order. That was it. All the trophies on show, and we go for that. But with those ambitions comes expectations, from staff and players. With expectations comes pressure. That needs to be managed. And Sir Alex Ferguson was the best one to manage that. Right? Now, to meet those expectations, you need to have the highest standards, as players, as clubs and all that. And again, Sir Alex Ferguson put that winning mentality in play. And because to meet those standards, everybody needs to take responsibility, players and staff. Now, if that works and you tick all those boxes, then you've got a really good chance to make those ambitions come true. Mm-hmm. And I think somewhere down the line, there's a few blocks in there.
So there is new.
They need a new stadium, you know that, don't you?
Oh, Sam, it's horrendous.
They need to be brave enough to say, we need to build a new stadium, like you mean, and I think there's certainly enough land without disrupting the Man United, the Old Trafford as it is now, until the new stadium's finished, because I think they have enough land to build the new stadium, because they've got so much car park, like you mean.
Something to do with the railway track, I would say, the railway lines.
Yeah, but they've got so much land next to that. Yeah. Like I'm sure they could build a new stadium there. Be a bit of a problem with people parking, but Man United fans will park anywhere to go and watch the team play. Like you mean, because it's going to be for, probably 2 years.
Well, that's the least of the problem.
So no, I know it is. I know it isn't. But everybody's talking about revenue. Like you mean? I mean, you know, I think everybody's talking about. I recently read about Everton getting sold, and one of the main reasons Everton is getting sold for so much, everybody's quite staggered about it. It's because they're estimating with the new stadium they're going to create £75 million of revenue a year just through the stadium. Now that is compared to Everton's old ground, that's probably about only going to be 25 million or 30 million. That's all they can raise up to a maximum there. When you've got a new stadium that's going to have the right boxes, the right entertainment, the right values. Tottenham wouldn't have gone ahead with theirs for as long as they did and go playing at Wembley for all that time if they hadn't done all them figures about how much extra it's going to bring into, and not just extra revenue in football. It's extra revenue as your new stadium becomes an exhibition centre.
But Manchester United don't have a Wembley, do they?
No, you know. So,
no, but if they do build a new stadium,
they build a new stadium next door. Don't need to move out of Old Trafford.
They can keep playing in Old Trafford, not a problem.
You say least of the worries there, Old Trafford.
No.
It is the least of the worries, but you know, you know that clearly the Glazers don't want to build it.
Yeah.
And if it keeps getting this negativity when it rains heavily, and the water's rushing down, it doesn't look good for the football club, does it? Yeah. Not really.
Okay, so there's new money being invested. Idios gone in. They're bringing in new people at the top. We know that the Omar Berardi from Manchester City, Jason Wilcox, who'd been at Manchester City and gone round and has come back to Manchester United. So things are changing. I know that you don't like to talk about replacing managers out of respect for your profession, but of course we've got to talk about it because whether Ten Hag keeps his job or not is what people are talking about. Graham Potter was on Monday Night Football and he hinted that Manchester United had spoken to him in the summer.
Dangerous thing to say. That means Man United won't speak to him now, as far as I would say.
You think?
I would think. You don't let something like that out publicly.
No.
You do. You keep that as close to your chest as you possibly can, and you go get on your knees and pray every night that Man United are going to ring you. Although you let that out publicly, it's not a good thing. No, unless that, you know.
But what it does do, Sam, is
creates a media.
Well, exactly.
Frenzy,
it constantly creates that media speculation. Obviously, that feeds off to the fans. It creates a discussion with the fans, and you could always you know, when Ten Hag won the FA Cup, right? He did a poll with all the fans. 80% or 85% wanted him to stay, right? Now it's probably 50-50. You know, and that is how it goes. It swings with the emotions of the performances and the results. You know, it's an ongoing discussions. The clear message that we constantly get from the Ineos group is now we're back in the manager, and that should be clear, and that message should be very, very clearly conveyed to the players first and foremost, right? What the fans think and what they say, or what we as pundits say, is not really important, because the most important thing is that you have to own that dressing room, and you need to know that you get back, you know, from behind, because if there's cracks there, players will notice it. Players will see it and feel it.
But I agreed, but Ineos seem to have almost shot themselves in the foot, because there is rumours circulating that they spoke to several people in the summer. So with Graham Potter coming out and...
Yeah, but that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
It was like a public secret.
Yes,
that
exactly.
Ineos did that review, spoke to other people,
Yeah.
and I kept saying, you know, all the time that if you conduct a review, why do you conducting a review? You conduct a review with trying to find answers. Is this the way forward? But obviously, we see similar...
Or they didn't get the one they wanted.
Yeah, maybe as well.
They might not have got the one they wanted when they were doing the review, and then thought this is still the best option.
Oh.
But no, that's not fact. That's just...
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's just me thinking, because like at the end of the day, you don't want to. They don't want to be paying up the manager and moving him on. They want him to be successful. That's why they chose him in the first place. They want him to, you know.
But I'm sure that if they would have interviewed Sam, and that's probably one of the reasons when you do get interviewed managers, I'm sure that Sam would have asked questions as well. Yeah. Okay, great. You know where we are? Okay. What about this? What can I do?
Yeah.
What about this? What about that? And maybe the manager must have thought, well, hold on a minute. I know what the expectations of Manchester United are, but I'm not going to get this with what I've got.
Yeah.
So that could be, you know, a case as well.
Definitely. Yes. And you'd think with the top managers in the world, they are going to ask those questions for sure.
Well, it's one of the biggest jobs in the world, so they want to make sure that if they do step in, that they want to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Other names that are being linked that people are talking about, obviously it's been Gareth Southgate, people have been saying that all summer, Thomas Tuchel, and obviously Ruud van Nistelrooy is being talked about now as well, because he's there in a coaching capacity as well. And again, feel free not to answer, Sam, but I've got to ask you, if Ten Hag did go, who would you see would be a good replacement for him?
That I don't know. I seriously don't know that whether who would be the right coach and right manager for him. I mean, interviews are critical. One-to-one interviews are critical when they draw up the short list. So when they got whichever person they get in, or however many they decide to interview, would be crucial to what you've felt that the way forward for Man United would be. No, there's a lot out there, that you can. Well, you can choose worldwide if you want, because that's what the Premier League brings. Premier League brings worldwide managers into this country, like you mean. That's why I'm always moaning about the Brits not getting a fair crack, like you mean. But that's the way it is, and you've got to deal with it. You've got to be great at what you do to get to Premier League as a coach or a head coach today. No matter where you come from. So there'll be somebody out there, but it's all the support that goes with it. Rene pointed the finger at, he believed that he could make a player better by 2, 3, 5%. Yeah. You get that. You just get 1% of each player in your team. That's 11% improvement. Yeah. That's massive in this game. That's just 1%. You get any more of that, then you start breeding success, like you mean. Then you breeding confidence, and then the team spirit gets better, then everything's looking, and then you have to add on to that. You know, Sir Alex was always good at looking ahead. I mean, he wasn't looking now. He was looking next year and the season after that. And it seems like too many football clubs go, this is this season, this is next season, this is next season, instead of going 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 and 5. Yeah. And then that keeps the flow going, like you mean, so you don't get yourself into a desperate situation like Man United's got now.
One of our listeners asked on YouTube, we always ask our listeners, subscribers, you can send in questions always. If Ruud got the job, would you be interested to go back?
Of course he would.
The coaching staff. That was from Ollie on YouTube, by the way.
All right, yeah. Well,
look at his face, look.
Now, listen, Ruud and I, obviously, we know each other really, really well, because obviously I worked with him and did quite a lot of stuff, always stayed in touch. I rate him highly. You know, I think he was, just before we started the show, I was talking about it. I think he jumped the ship at PSV a little bit too soon. I think he was doing really, really well and you know, and did some really good stuff. But that's him, you know. He's made a decision. He ended up at Manchester United now as assistant coach. But I always feel, that is my opinion, I always feel if I jump into a job, I want to make sure that I be able to make a difference.
Yeah.
Not to make up the numbers, you know what I mean? And obviously, and I also have to not kid myself, because if I would back into Manchester United, I would walk back into something I probably wouldn't recognise.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, Natalie, in those 6 years that I was the first team coach at Manchester United, I loved every minute of it. I didn't feel any negative pressure any day when I was driving up to Counting that I thought, oh my God, we need it. Never. And that was totally down to the man management of Sir Alex Ferguson and how much he trusted us to what we were doing. And that is probably the big change. Yeah. But obviously, if you would, and Ruud would come calling, you would help him. Of course, you want to talk to him and say, okay, what can I do for you?
Yes, we like that. Somebody else said on YouTube, we just wanted to share it with you. 305 Solo said, just wants you to be aware that on Football Manager, he actually said, Football Manager nerds like myself, his words. You are apparently a coaching legend on Football Manager. And 305 Solo
have accumulated a lot of points, you know.
Yeah, all right.
That must be.
Because I did Football Manager World Cup final at Liverpool a few weeks ago. Posted it on my Instagram, by the way. And we did it with John Terry. I was absolutely flabbergasted. I was there all afternoon where they did a World Cup quarter-final, semi-final and final, like, I mean, for the first time ever, like, I mean. So I was amazed at, they were from Indonesia, South Africa, England. It was...
And they're hiring Rene, apparently.
It was mind-boggling. They've got these great big screens.
Must be your fault in the system.
The players are dashing all over the place and they're shooting and going wide and they're saving it. And all, honest to God, it was a real eye-opener. But apparently, you know, just even big money in it.
Oh, yeah.
Must be real big money. It was fascinating to me. Like, I mean, I can imagine me trying to get on that and trying to play it like that.
Oh, no, it's a car crash.
But it teaches them a huge amount about players.
Yeah.
Because you're buying and selling players. You're a manager.
Yeah.
So I think that sooner or later, there's lads going to come out of Football Manager and you're going to employ him in your football club.
I think it's happened for one person,
I mean,
you know?
yeah, but he's the coach, isn't he? If I would look at these lads, I'd say, come in, can you come in and do the recruitment side of it?
Yeah.
Have a look at the recruitment and say, because he knows where all the players are all the world, because he's buying them, selling them every week.
Football Manager nerds.
And they've all got this value on them, like, I mean, it's just amazing piece of tech that they've done, like, I mean, amazing.
Love that. I love that point as well. So we're glad to pass that message on to you. We're going to talk Manchester United tactics in a minute and we're going to bring our board in. But there was a quote this week and Marco van Basten said, at every top club you see a top player. He went on to say, Rashford is very bad. Bruno Fernandes is a good player. Onana is a good goalkeeper. Casemiro is done. Garnacho is a decent player. But nobody carries the team. What do you both think about that?
Yeah, I think I can see where it's coming from, because I think if you look at all great teams in past and present and good teams, you can highlight, you know, those individuals that are the ones that are pulling the strings, you know, in certain teams. And I think what he means is, again, those players of the caliber that has to play at Manchester United, they have to be those difference makers. You know what I mean? I think with Bruno, and I do rate him highly, and he's a really, really good player. Is he the right captain material? I sometimes have to question because of his, you know, reactions and all that, and it all depends. So, you know, they are the ones that create the sort of, they paint the story of the game. That's what good players do. You know what I mean? And at this moment in time, there's none of them really, and they all get sort of, you know, over. You know, they're all drowned within, you know, the bad performances, you know, of the team. So I can see where Marco's coming from, yeah.
We don't have a world-class player, do they?
No.
Sad to say, I'd like to say that they have. Yeah, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you had in the past, Ruud van Nistelrooy and, well, he had more than just one, hadn't he? Giggsy, Scholes.
Every position was
world
class.
Beckham, Ruud, Cole, York, Sheringham, you know, at the back.
They did what I always used to discuss with Sir Alex was, I said, listen, and we were top of the tree, you know, and if you look at the number 2s, 3s, 4s and 5s, how many players would they want to steal from us?
Yeah.
You know, you talk about 6, 7, maybe 8 at that time.
Yeah.
I said, how many would Real Madrid, AC Milan, all those big foreign clubs steal from us? Probably maybe 2, 3, 4. That is a sign of a really good squad.
Yeah.
Now, ask the question now, how many of the competitors would come and shop at Man United?
Maybe one if you're lucky.
Yeah. So there's the
going
answer.
to the back, Ferdinand, Pallister, Schmeichel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Evra. He goes on and on and on. So centre halves go on and on with Man United. Yeah.
I've got one question left for both of you before the when we're going to bring the tactic board in. And I feel like sometimes I just need to say, I say it with the greatest respect. And I know that you're both close to Sir Alex Ferguson and with complete respect that he is one of the greatest, to many people, the greatest that the game's ever seen. Is there any feeling, have you ever talked to Sir Alex Ferguson about it? Or what are both of your opinions on, obviously when Sir Alex Ferguson left Manchester United, it went immediately downhill. Should there have been more planning in place before he left? Should he have done more before he left?
I have to say this, and I said it many, many times. If Sir Alex Ferguson would have not left, right, because people were starting to say we had an aging team and all team, I guarantee you 100% we would have been there and thereabouts to win the league again.
Well, he already built 4 teams before that, didn't he?
100%. We would have made.
Aging, he got rid of them and rebuilt another team again and again and again.
100%. We would have made, because we discussed up obviously players coming in and going. We were looking at potential, players coming in, which one we wanted to let go, and we would have been there or thereabouts. 100%. No shadow of a doubt. Could he have done more? I don't know. That's again, there has to be the club in terms of how much did he make in part of that transition. I don't think they basically didn't. As much as that, obviously they asked him, and obviously I think his suggestion was to bring David Moyes in, and further than that, it was like off you go.
But it was his club.
Yeah. Of course, he didn't expect that it was going that that way, because you would think of the stability and the continuity he'd created for so many years, that doesn't just evaporate. Yeah. It doesn't disappear. But it shows again that when such a strong figurehead that really was so instrumental in creating that culture, that winning mentality, and all that style, that playing style, and in terms of making sure that there was an entertainment level in all the games, and the risk taking in it, which we loved. And, most of the time we got away with it. Sometimes we didn't. But it was generally expected from the fans, and that just diluted very, very quickly. And you tell me.
Like I said, they should never have let David Gill and Sir Alex leave at the same time. Sir Alex has made a decision. He already made one earlier, a few years earlier, and reversed it because. He thought he was ready, then he changed his mind, so he came back again. So, but if David Gill sees at the time David Moyes through the workings of Man United that have been put in place, that obviously it's going to be different. David has a different view, but David Gill's there to guide him and said it was a new chief executive who knew nothing about how Man United worked, because he lived in London. He was the commercial manager, I think, when it was commercial director.
Yeah.
So now he's dropping into Manchester United at the highest level, and David Moyes is coming in from Everton. And how does this work? They don't even, David Gill guides Moyes. He's saying, look, you tell me what you want, I'll go out and get it for you. I don't think David ever had that, like you mean. Because now he's looking at this player at Everton, but now he's looking at this level. And where are they? Yeah. So obviously you look at what Man United have been scouting, and there'll be a certain amount of players there that David Gill would go, I'll go and get him for you, I'll go and do it. And that might have helped at that particular time, like you mean. But it's
relationships as well that David had built over the years with the agents. And, there's a strategy there. You need to know the agent. You need to know how to handle these things. And if you come in and you have really not much knowledge about it, the agents will take advantage of it, 100%.
And they clearly have,
With David Gill, there was clear, and there was money to be paid and all that. But we do the deal, and that's it. Thereafter, it was when Man United came knocking, the price went up.
I mean, when Pogba came back, Sir Alex let Pogba go, didn't he? But he had the agent of Mina Raiola, unfortunately passed away now. But there were rumoured that he got something like £20 million for that deal. That was the rumour. And normally them rumours, when they come out are near the mark, aren't they? Normally, you can't say it's definite, but I don't think Sir Alex would ever have dreamed of okaying
no
that
chance.
Sort of payment for an agent. For a player, but for an agent, so they started to let themselves get into them. The word quickly goes around when them sort of figures to start getting about, and the agents will never be off the phone trying to get their players into there, if they're going to make that much money.
Well, let's pull our tactics board in. So for our podcast listeners, we're going to pull the tactics board in. You might want to go online and have a look at this bit because we'll play with the magnets again. But for everybody watching on YouTube, we'll just have a quick change. We are so excited and proud to be nominated for the Best Podcast Organisation at the Football Content Awards. Aren't we, Sam?
please vote for No Tippy Tappy Football.
Yeah, go online onto the Football Content Awards website or onto their Instagram and comment on the post for best podcast, just No Tippy Tappy Football. We're up against Gary Neville's podcast, Simon Jordan's podcast, and a load of others, Sam.
Well, I think that there's no contest, is there?
No contest.
You've just got to vote for us, please.
Vote for us. Sam says it. Thank you. We're so happy to be nominated. Okay, so quick change for our YouTube watchers, and we have the tactics board in, or we love this board, the magnets. You feel free to move them.
Hey, it took us a while to get these magnets out of the budget. Like
Yes.
We got them there.
Yes, big budget, clearly. Right,
There's no opposition.
No, well,
they'd probably like that
Man
right
United
now.
would love to play. Man United would love to play like this.
Please, could you give us a talk through Man United? Say specifically the first half, the tactics, the way Manchester United are playing currently, say the first half of the Spurs game.
Yeah. But the one thing that I picked up on is obviously there's no opposition, no Spurs players there. But what they did, they had Zirkzee and Fernandes coming like in this sort of shape, yeah? The one problem I always feel what United always have is that these distances are too big.
Yeah.
Right? So they need to
I agree.
They need to be much higher than that. Now, the other thing is, there was no clear pattern or cues in when to press. Zirkzee or Fernandes, when the ball went back to the goalkeeper, he just starts running. You can't do that because they'll pick you off one by one. In this case here, what you need to do, these need to understand when, let's say, the centre-backs of Tottenham have the ball. What do? When the ball is there, are we waiting? Yeah, so the ball can go on this side, right? And then these guys have to go and jump. And then if the ball goes back, then everybody can go and everybody squeezes up. And you got that. And basically, there's only one way for Tottenham then to come out as a long ball, right? That was one of the things I picked up on from a defensive point of view because they were sort of too deep. They were gone away. They were starting to get isolated, them two, and it was really easy for Tottenham to play through. Plus the fact that they moved players in these inverted positions. Maddison could rotate out. He stayed here, and then obviously Kulusevski was in this sort of dangerous position, who played a really good game as well. And that was one of the main problems from a defensive point of view.
Yes.
You talk about the style of Ten Hag, what is looking at it, and there's a lot of discussions because everybody praised him for when he was at Ajax. At Ajax, different league, dominate possession, 75-80% every game they play.
Best squad in the league.
More possession based, and it was more like moving the ball, more tippy-tappy, like we so to speak. Yeah. Ten Hag has opted a little bit more. He says he hasn't got the players. But he wants a little bit more of a regain and then hit him on a fast, quick break. Because if they, let's say, deeper and they do win the ball back, and let's say Bruno Fernandes is the one, and there's Garnacho and Rashford, and Bruno Fernandes is the one that sort of picks the ball up, and you've seen that time and time again. This is a strike, and he picks the ball up. He's on a run. Bum. That's what he do with Ten Hag. When he gets on the ball, they are running.
Yeah.
And that's what they
not
were trying.
Coming to feet, running forward.
Exactly. That's what they tried. And that's the biggest transition. But what it does is that if they do go, and they all go, and they go, and there's the support, and maybe he goes, Dalot goes, and hoping they try to come to catch up, and then suddenly you end up with this. You get a massive, massive hole here in the midfield. And that was evident last season. Yeah. Because other teams, they will capitalise on this because you just wait and see. They say, wait, okay, they got advanced, break the lines, and you straight on the back line. And here they haven't got the pace like Tottenham has in like Micky Van De Ven.
It's hard to think that he wouldn't work. He doesn't know this himself. I find it incredibly to think that he hasn't done all this.
Yeah.
And doing the things he's done, that he hasn't been on the training ground and implemented this. I find it. It gets much more difficult when you get European games.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get Premier League, European, Premier League, Carabao Cup, Premier League, European, Carabao Cup if you stay in it. So that this type of tactical work has to be done when you can, which is not a lot of pre-season now because you're off playing games. But he has been there a number of years and there aren't too many players coming. So he's the sit down with the players on what's the best way for this team to cope.
Yeah.
Defensively first, and then attacking wise, how we're going to exploit the opposition. What's the best way for Man United to defend? Is it here? There's three areas. Is it here? Is it there? Or is it there?
Yeah.
And if you're playing at home and you do too much there, the fans are going to get a bit disrupted unless you counter-attack and you score, and you know, it's you can get away with it for so long, but eventually you have to do it a little different.
But whatever you choose, Sam, and I totally agree, whether you defend high up with a press, you know what I mean, or in the middle block or in a low block, there's principles. You have the players to make the team to understand those principles, and all those jobs in all those areas, they don't change. They don't change. So it cannot be that this is the picture. If you, let's say, you're pressing high, and you want to say, okay, now we press like from this shape, 4-4-2.
Yeah.
This is a really good. This is a really good shape. No problem. It's very hard to come in between the pockets. They need to shoot. The goalkeeper needs to be advanced. Now, what are the cues? Those are principles. That doesn't change from week to week, from game to game. If you decide to do that, this is your job. This is your job. That is your job. But what is happening with United as well? If they do press, they defend from here. They then go. There they are. They are isolated, and they're all back here. And that's the problem. That's been the problem. So there's no connection. But the principles are the same. With Alex Ferguson, never forget it. When he promoted me to first team coach, he had a flip chart board, and in that flip chart for 3 pages, he explained me exactly how he wanted Man United to play, from a defensive point of view, from a transition point of view, and then set pieces were a different chapter. But then he said, "This is the most important one." He came to the last page, and this is how I want United to attack, with pace, power, penetration, unpredictability. Those 4 things, and I want you to instill that in that team every single day, no matter what you do, whether it's a shooting exercise, a condition game, a possession game, an 11v11. Those are the things I want to see. And if you go back to when United were at the best, that's what you saw. Pace, power, penetration, unpredictability.
Do you think Ten Hag could do a similar quick presentation to a coach and be able to explain what he wants Man United to play?
Of course he would.
He should be able.
Yeah.
He didn't deserve to be there if he can't do that. I mean, come on, let's face it. I mean, the one thing I always remember speaking to Rio Ferdinand as well as Sir Alex and Brucey, Pallister. You got left here one-on-one. You know what I mean? And all the teams I played in are all the teams lesser than Man United. They've 2, we'd 3.
Yeah.
They had 1, we had 2. Man United would leave one-on-one.
No problem.
But that man was capable of coping with it.
Yeah.
Well, this man was capable of coping with it, like you mean. So that would give him more options in attacking, because it wasn't leaving an extra man just for the cover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know you get these other areas where Pep's done a Pepperism, where a fullback goes in here, which is if they're only playing one up front, is a great idea. Because you can let your other midfield players go beyond again. But like getting to that is just a basic. It's a basic. Man United need a basic understanding about how we defend and how we attack.
Yeah.
And that seems to be. They seem to be unable to sustain it throughout the period of 90 minutes. So something happens that goes against them. It's like I always say, look, no matter what happens, stick to the principles that we started with. We've stuck to that because we think we might get a result or be able to win. If you go, I called it AWOL. You know, a player goes AWOL, you end up getting beat 4 or 5 or 6. Because the player just goes and does what, and you lose the discipline, you lose the shape of the team. They go chasing if you chase anything, you never win.
Yeah. Yeah.
He would have anticipated, Sam, with Tottenham, what are you going to do? You always do that. What do you think? Are they going to sit back or they press? They could have anticipated the press. Now, you the manager, you see that happening. Early parts of the game, they already lost the ball by trying to play out. And it causes all sorts of problems. And it led to the first goal in the thing, but obviously he lost the ball there. But I think there were 7 turnovers already in their own half around the own ball. What would you say as a manager after 33 times? Well, forget it, boys. Just get up. Just get up.
Yeah.
Just get up. Oh, that tends to be a dirty word.
10 men now, that's fine.
It tends to be, that's Bruno Fernandes falling off the board. but what I'm saying is, I would then, okay, let's relay the press. Yeah. Let's relay it, no problem, for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then make it difficult.
Let's do a Brentford.
Yeah, let's do a Brentford.
3 goals. Yeah. 3 goals in less than 60 seconds on the trot.
Yeah.
3 goals in it, but it's amazing.
But I mean, there's nothing, you know what I mean? It's like, no, because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We used to say that all the time to Edwin van der Sar, but
change the way,
also
change the way you play.
Also, there was this talk about that they were too close. You know, the centre back sometimes. You know, he said, "Is it a coaching job or is it some?" Listen, these are players of that caliber. They need to understand the distances and the communication that needs to be done. Yeah. That's another thing. You know what I mean? And that's such an important triangle. You know, with the goalkeeper. But Van der Sar knew, go Rio, go Vidic, go, no problem. No, you're not going to get the ball. Off you go. And then we played a few long balls.
Anyway, you know what's going to happen, don't you? Anyway, thanks very much. That's absolutely brilliant.
Love
you
that.
know what's going to happen? Our subscribers are going to keep subscribing, and you know, eventually we're going to get an electronic tactics. Oh yeah. We ain't going to get the counters, and we're going to be able to afford an electronic tactics board like they do on Sky.
We can swipe our fingers.
Me and Rene come back again next time. We can start moving them around and be more impressive than we are now.
Yes, I absolutely love that. My very last question for you both: if a prime Sir Alex Ferguson came in to this team now, could he fix them? Could they challenge for the league?
I think he'd make it better, but it wouldn't be. I can't see it challenging the top four at the moment, even with Sir Alex. Can you?
No, because it would galvanise. I think the players in the different ways, and he's got a strong, values. What he felt, what needs to be done in the right culture, and he made it very clear what his expectations are and the responsibilities of the players. But at the end of the day, it comes down to quality. And like I said, if you can ask the other question, how many of these players would come in the team when he was there when I was there? You know what I mean? So,
yeah. Anyway. Is the answer none?
Well, maybe one.
Well,
thank you. Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. That was so interesting. Sam, thank you as always. And thank you everybody for watching another episode of No Tippy Tappy Football. Thank you. Thank you.